protecting our community is worth a shot. Vaccines can help protect you, your family, and our community. Stop by James Drugstore today.
And welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Weekly Show, a podcast brought to you by the Livingston Parish News. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. And today I got a special guest here from the school board. He's from the Albany District. I'm going to give him a second to introduce himself, but we do appreciate him taking the time this morning, especially it is Thursday, very dreary out there. So good morning, sir. How are you today?
Fantastic. First, McHugh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. My name is Devin Gregoire, Dr. Devin Gregoire, actually. I just got my PhD recently.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And I am the school board member for District 9 Albany in Livingston Parish.
Gotcha. Real quick, what'd you get your PhD in?
Information technology and system design.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's
ISDS.
what I do for a living. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. My wife actually has a degree in that as well.
Cool.
Couldn't get into the library system though. Those ladies hold on to those jobs, so she moved on to something else. But anyway, today you are here to talk about the potential for a vote on new taxes,
Sure.
Which got moved, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. You decided to move that because of Ida, and we'll get into that later.
Sure.
But first and foremost, want to hear your 2 to 4 minute elevator speech. What you're
Sure.
telling people going door to door about why you want to do this, why you believe the school district needs it.
Absolutely. So, surveying the area and looking around, we have a bunch of new subdivisions that are coming up. We've got from the 2010 census, we've got a huge population growth in Livingston Parish. And we have some very outdated and very old schools. The school that we're talking about moving is the Upper Elementary, Albany Upper Elementary. That school building, we actually don't know how old it is.
Right.
We have some documentation that shows a renovation that was done in, I believe, 1916
Okay.
or 1917. But that was a renovation plan.
Right.
That wasn't the actual building plans. And so we're not really sure, but we know it's over 100 years old.
Sure.
And we do renovations to it on a regular basis. We keep it up. It's not a bad facility. It's just very, very old, and it's harder and harder to do the upkeep on it. We also have a situation where the upper and the lower are sharing a cafeteria, which means that cafeteria is actually the largest cafeteria in the parish as far as how many students it serves. One of the things they start serving at like 10:15, and they stop serving at like 1:20. So their lunch service is a very long, drawn out process, and with over 600 kids between the upper and lower elementary, we've got a lot of population in that little small area.
Sure. And I mean, that's a very interesting thing to bring up. I mean, there are, of course, 3 very large high schools over here, Walker, Denham, and Live Oak. And you're saying that this one, sort of combo cafeteria is serving more than those.
Correct.
And that's wild.
Yes.
Between the 3 of them, between those 3 high schools, you're talking about roughly 6,000 kids.
Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible.
Yep.
We know there's a lot of growth in Albany. So let's start first with, the finance portion of it.
Sure.
The proposal is going to have a half-cent sales tax and an 8-meal property tax, correct?
Correct.
How'd you arrive at those numbers?
Okay, so one of the things that we looked at is we didn't want to burden a small portion of the community with all of the renovation costs. So we looked at a millage, and a millage was going to be to build a new school is anywhere between $10 and $20 million, and prices are going up. So the longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to be to build a new school. So we looked at how we could distribute that fairly and evenly. And the most equitable way to do that would be a sales tax, which means everybody pays the same amount no matter of the income levels or the property levels or anything like that. When we looked at that, we found out that there is only a half cent to give, meaning if we do 3/4 of a cent, I think we could cover it all. But with the Louisiana law and the way the taxes work, we didn't have that much to request. All we had was a half cent.
Sure.
And that was based upon the inside sales tax of the city of Albany itself. They only had a half cent to give. And So we looked at the half cent and what would it take to actually make up, enough money to cover building a school. That's why the millage came on board, was so that we could cover that extra cost. And 8 mills, it equivocates to about $150 to $200 a year more on your property taxes. And we felt that was a fair and equitable distribution, a way to get the money and do it fairly.
Sure. And about how much money on a yearly basis is that expected to raise?
Well, the way we base it is payment calculations off of a bond. So we're going to issue a bond, and what that is going to accrue as far as a payment interest, and it'll cover a payment interest or a payment process for between 14 and 16 million, and we won't know the exact number until we actually get out there and sell the bond.
I got you.
But it's around 14 to 16 million dollars is what that combination will cover. Also, to a point of interest, we are doing this as a joined, so it's two different votes on the ballot, but one is contingent upon the other.
Gotcha. So both have to pass.
Both have to pass. Yes.
Okay. Any particular reason y'all approached it that way?
Well, we didn't want to put something on there and then just not have enough money, and then we wouldn't be able to allocate it for what it was directed for.
Sure.
So, we needed to make sure that we had the correct amount of money,
sure,
to do the projects that we are allocating them for. And, if the millage doesn't pass, and the sales tax does, we basically just wouldn't, if one passes and the other doesn't, the one that passed just wouldn't go into effect.
Sure. Okay. So, as you're moving forward, and one of the things I know you've discussed with the school board and David Gray here at the news is that there are favorable bond rates out there right now. So it's,
yes,
a lot of, I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to some of the stuff we've been writing, but the parish has refinanced some bonds. The sewer district has issued new bonds. Denham paid off the Bass Pro bonds because they had a favorable, they refinanced them a few years ago and then paid them off early.
Yeah.
So it is a good bond market out there right now, and y'all, of course, need the money. And let's talk about that need and a few more specifics. When you're talking about this, sort of opens the door to reshuffle a lot of classroom space, a lot of it's not just the cafeteria.
Right.
I know that was a good way for you to present the data.
Sure.
But there's more to it than that.
Absolutely.
Everybody, one school is going to get full access to a library, and another school is going to get a totally new library, classroom space. So let's talk about, if both of those pass, what the shuffle looks like. Okay.
So the first thing is, the school that we will build would be the new Albany Upper Elementary. It would encompass 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So right now, 5th grade is at the middle school, and it was moved to the middle school because of Title I funding. And when Title I funding went through 8th grade, it was no longer necessary to maintain it there. But we didn't want to move people around when we didn't have to, and we didn't have the space to move them back to the upper. So we'll have 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade at the middle school. So for the lower elementary, they will be able to absorb the library and all of the classrooms that they need for expansion, which includes a lot. We have a very big pre-K class set, which is growing at leaps and bounds. So
and that kind of gives you a glimpse of the future.
Correct. Absolutely. So we've got a big pre-K, and so we'll have more rooms to do more pre-K classes. So we're limited by space and the number of pre-K students we can take in. We would then have more classrooms to be able to take in more pre-K kids in the lower elementary. They'd get the library. They would get whatever classrooms they'd want from the upper. The lower would have first dibs on them. The classrooms that were left over would be available for special education classrooms. We looked at a life classroom, which allows special education kids to come in and do life skills: how to make a bed, how to take care of yourself, cook food, and different things like that.
Day-to-day stuff.
Day-to-day stuff. We would be able to set up a couple of those apartment situations where they could do those kind of trainings. And some of the classes that we're now doing off campus, as in we have to go to the technology center in Livingston or things like that, we would be able to do closer to home.
Gotcha.
So we would have availability for that for the high school. For the middle school, they would get the entire 5th grade wing would be able to be reabsorbed into the middle school for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So the high school would get expansion on their extra programs. The middle school would get a whole classroom wing back. The upper would get the brand new school, and the lower would get all the leftover classrooms. It would also make the cafeteria. It would half the number of students that they would have to serve, which would be relieve a big burden off of them. It would also create some. It would ease some of the traffic issues that are going around it, because half the traffic would then be going. We have a piece of property that we purchased recently on the north side of Albany, just outside the city limits.
On Farkas, correct?
On Farkas, well,
Right.
just off of Farkas Lane, and it's on Highway 43. We own the property on both sides of the road, so we could expand to put a turning lane in, and we wouldn't be taking anyone's property to do that. We would be using our own property to expand 43 to allow for turning lanes and things like that.
Gotcha. So, when you think about, that's a lot of dominoes to fall should this pass, and it really increases the capacity of Albany's school system.
Substantially, yes.
Sure. And one of the things to consider, you brought it up, and when I gave you the 4 minutes at the beginning, the census has shown that population is growing. One of the things that I know you've discussed publicly, we've talked about it with Mr. Rob DeArmond, our sports editor, and I believe Mr. David Gray's brought it up as well. There is an expectation that Albany will be moving up classifications here pretty soon.
Yes, we'll be moving into the 4A category real soon. It's I believe it's maybe 2 years back. 2
Sure.
years within the next 2 years, those classes coming up into high school will push them over the 4A.
So
threshold.
between growth and pre-K, and already seeing that growth and having to do 4-hour lunch periods to serve all these kids, you're looking for, I don't want to say quick and easy. It's more just you're looking for the right way to make an expansion to your
Correct.
infrastructure.
Yes, absolutely.
So one of the things that you've discussed with David Gray is you've done some canvassing.
Yes.
You have gone out in the community and talked to people. What's the feedback like?
The feedback, honestly, the feedback is all over the place. You have your people that say absolutely don't want any new taxes, period. And you have the ones that say if it has to do with school, I will always vote for it no matter what. So you run that gambit all across the board. The biggest feedback that I've been getting is this expansion is needed. Whether we pay for it with the sales tax or millage, or we have to go and find another funding route, which there's not many out there, but it's alternative things to explore. Then it's needed. Now this is the quickest, the easiest, the most equitable way of doing it from my point of view. And if anybody has any other thoughts or on that, they're always feel free to contact me at any point in time about this, because I would love to discuss it with anybody who has a differing opinion.
Sure. And how can they get in contact with you?
They can. My phone number is on the school board website. I can give it here if that's not a problem.
Yep.
It's 225-202-3894. My email address is devin.gregoire@lpsb.org. That's devin.gregoire@lpsb.org. Or if you know where I live, come by my house, knock on my door. If you see me out in public, just pull me to the side.
Sure. And give the proposal.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk about the proposal for a second, because you had hoped that it would be on this fall's ballot. Ida had other plans.
Correct.
That would be Hurricane Ida, for those of you who might be living under a rock. So the hurricane comes in, you have to kind of assess, of course, y'all's side of the parish got it worse than the west side. And there's still some recovery going on. There's still infrastructure problems. So you made the decision as the representative for that area to move it to the spring. Tell us
Correct.
about how you worked through that.
Oh, it was a easy decision to make when, the day after the hurricane passed through, that next morning, I got up. We actually I helped some people cut some trees out of the road so that we could even get into Albany.
Sure.
And then went and did site evaluations for the campuses, went and looked around the town and saw the just massive devastation that the hurricane brought through Albany. And as we were progressing through, personally, I was out without electricity for 17 days, and we didn't have cable internet for 27 days. So and I was on the interstate side of Albany, so I was, not the first, but one of the first to get things back. And I know that there's still people on the north side of Albany that still are having issues trying to get all of the infrastructure back up and running. So when I had a chance to sit down and actually think about it, it was like, this is not the right time. People are recovering. Nobody wants to talk about taking more money, because it's a tax. It's increasing and it's a sales tax. So it's a half cent that you'll see on, if you spend $2 at the store, it's a penny.
Yeah.
Is really what it is. That if you think about it like that, it's not a lot, but it adds up.
Sure. And I mean, people buy groceries and that
Sure.
kind of thing. So they will see it. But I guess leading into that, the intention is to push it to the spring. When you have somebody that comes to you and says, there's going to be those people you already talked about who
Yes.
just said, no new tax. Nope, absolutely not. Any renewal, I'm going to vote against it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But when you're talking to the people who are kind of in that subset of, I'm not real sure about a new tax, but I'm open to let you sell me on it.
Okay.
What's the pitch?
The pitch is equality, equitability, I should say, is a better word. The sales tax is a way of dividing it out. One of the things that happened previously in other parts of the parish, including our district, was they tried to pass millages. And some people said, yes, our school is worth this high millage. And some people said, no, the millage is too much, and decided against it. One of the reasons why District 9 is so against millages themselves is because we're actually a low-income district. We're a low-income side of the parish. And so the amount of people that are above the homestead exemption rate is only about 10 to 15% of the population.
Sure.
And which means that if we do a millage, only 10 to 15% of the Albany School District actually contribute.
Right.
And that's not an equitable solution. And because the amount of millage that we'd have to pick up to cover that is just, we'd be in the 40 and 50 mills, which is just not. It's nobody would. I wouldn't vote for it.
Sure, and that has been a problem for that side of the parish. I mean, the gravity drainage proposals have always run into that snag. Is the homestead exemption pulls a lot of those properties off the rolls, and it's very hard to come up with the money you need.
Absolutely. So the other thing about that is that we compare ourselves justly or unjustly, and other people compare this side of the parish to our side of the parish. Well, they say Walker High School, it's got a beautiful high school. It's up to date and technology savvy and all that kind of stuff. Well, Walker passed a big millage to approve that. The community of Walker decided they wanted a better school system. It's the same thing here. If we want a better school system, we're going to have to do our part, and our part would be the half-cent sales tax, the 8 mills. That would be our part in developing our school system to make it better.
Sure.
And we are the 4th largest high school in the parish. It goes Denham, Live Oak, and Walker flip-flop. I don't know which one.
Yeah, they're very close.
So it's Denham, Walker, Live Oak.
I believe it is Denham, Walker, Live Oak.
And then us, and we're not that far down the chain from them.
Right, because we used to do the graduation section here, and
Sure.
you and whoever was third, like you said, Walker and Live Oak would flip every now and again. We're not that much different.
Right.
Now, Denham, of course, has tons of them. But yeah, it is interesting, and of course, as you said, y'all are moving into 4A here pretty soon, so you'll be right there on the cusp of that. It also is important to note, with those Walker millages, actually Denham, Walker, and Live Oak all have extra millages, some more than one, to fund certain things. Of course, there was a renewal recently here in Denham for new fields and athletic facilities at their campus. So extra millages, not unheard of here. But of course, as you said, you have to add that sales tax component because of the way property values work over on your side of the parish. So, I do want to mention there was a pretty Herculean effort on the ground level by Walker. I think that was 2014. A lot of administrators going door to door. It was very interesting. I followed them one day. It was quite fascinating. But that was it was a significant increase. It's 14.65 mils. So that was, you're proposing 8.
Yeah.
So it's not even quite as much. And as you discussed earlier, sort of the shuffling and the outflow creates a huge amount of capacity. For the district. So this will be coming up in the spring.
Correct. April.
The vote will be in April. And, of course, you told us why you sought to move it. So anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up today?
Our kids deserve this. We have a great set of kids. Our district, our school district as a whole, Livingston Parish, is one of the premier districts, and we want to keep it that way. One of the ways we do that is to continue to get better, to continue to update. One of the things that I am doing as far as these new schools is increased in technology. So it's going to be a very technology heavy. The new school is going to be a very technology heavy school. Aesthetics is nice, but it's not really. I don't want an art piece out there. I want a functional school that develops these kids in the world that we live in, which is a high technology society. So that's one of the things that we're doing with this new school is it's going to be, a high technology school. That's just what I want to say.
I got you. So, when you're thinking about the purpose of this, it's not just about a simple, let's build a building to expand capacity. It's let's try to take advantage of an opportunity with more money.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, in addition to that, if we can find some other money, there are other side projects that we want to do. We definitely want to put a gymnasium at the middle school. Now, this is in addition to, this is an after fact, but we want to put a gymnasium at the middle school. We want to create a track and field area on this side of the parish, something that is large enough and functional enough to actually do track and field events on the east side of the parish. So there are other projects that come down the road after this, but we're looking at, the new schools are main priority. These things are just afterthoughts. But, moving into that higher level of competition, we're going to need better facility.
Sure. And last question, when you're expanding, that means more teachers. Do you foresee that as being a problem, or do you believe that y'all easily be able to acquire faculty?
At the new school, absolutely. Yes. Every new teacher wants to be at a brand new school. They want to be the first ones in that classroom to christen the classroom. So that is a big draw on new talented teachers for the system. We are definitely in a teacher shortage, without a doubt. We are looking at ways. I mean, we just passed a teacher raise. In addition to the state raise, the school board itself passed a teacher raise. We're trying to, create a better environment. We just passed also a coach's stipend raise, because the coach's stipend hasn't been changed since 1996, I believe.
Wow.
So in 1996, what they were making as a stipend is exactly what they're making today.
Yeah, and that was 20. Believe it or not, folks, that was 25 years ago. So that's quite a jump. So that's interesting. So trying to incentivize new talent,
correct,
to come work for the system. I got you. So That was actually a question when we first ran this story about 2 months ago.
Mhm.
Somebody had posited the question, with the with teachers in short supply these days, are they going to be? But you believe
Yes.
with those raises, and since it's a new school, that they'll be easy to acquire.
That's a great incentive for new teachers. Yes.
Gotcha. Well, Dr. Gregoire, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's my
And,
pleasure.
If you'll introduce yourself real quick or reintroduce yourself as we head out.
Yes. My name is Dr. Devin Gregoire. I am the school board member for Albany District 9, Livingston Parish School Board.
And here today to talk about what the proposal was, or is, I guess you could say, half-cent sales tax and an $8 million property tax going into the area for the school system. Of course, that has now been moved to April because of Ida. And again, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate, again, Dr. Gregoire for joining us, and appreciate you guys out there for listening or watching, whichever you chose to do. Please remember that the news is on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print and Thursdays. That's $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. Again, we appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next time.